Hello and welcome to a new episode of Foodocracy for Her. And today I'm going to speak to a couple of cheese makers, and their names are Anuradha Krishnamurthy and Namrata Sundaresan. Where are they making it? Are they making it in Switzerland? No, not really. Are they making it in some really cold place in India, like Shimla, or I don't know, Nainital, Ooty? So where are you folks based, Namrata?
Chennai. Nice.
Chennai, mind it.
Sultry Chennai.
Chennai, mind it. No, I was waiting to crack that joke, and it's very, very hot. So, normally I have espresso and or chai. It's just simple dabed jal, as we say in Calcutta, or nariyal pani. Okay, listen, I just wanted to tell you about something which happened this morning before I started the interview. So, I woke up feeling as if a horse chariot had gone over me. I don't know why I was thinking of a horse chariot and not a truck or something like that. But just like aching in different parts of the body. I know it was because I slept pretty late. And for those of you who will be seeing this when the pandemic is over, well, when the pandemic happened, that's how it was for a lot of people. Like I slept late. Then my wife told me that even younger folks, because she woke up and she was also feeling that sort of pain. And she'll be happy when I sort of say that people younger than me also felt. But jokes apart, so then what I did was I took a quick shower and went to the kitchen. I had a whole wheat burger bun left over from yesterday from Baker's Dozen, which is run by Aditi Handa, and whom I've interviewed as part of Foodocracy for Her. So I decided to make a fried egg burger, which is like a sandwich. And suddenly I saw all these cheeses in my fridge, and I took out the cheese which said pepper jack, which is from them. And I put that in, and also some caperberries, sliced caperberries from Ishka Farms, which is run by a lady called Fiona. So it's all women here, just except the guy who's eating. And it just turned out to be fabulous. And the cheese is so good. I asked Namrata, are you guys sure that you're not importing these cheeses? This is the second time I had one of the cheeses. Earlier, a couple of weeks back, I had the cheddar, which they do in association with Fratelli wines, which is also one of the well-regarded wines in India. And I was really very, very impressed by that cheese. And I got in touch with Namrata and I said, we must chat on Foodocracy for Her. And then as I got to know her and also about Anuradha, so the two of them are behind this and their story, then I thought that maybe I shouldn't be one of those interviewers who doesn't prepare and come into an interview. Well, I came to this interview just because the cheese is marvelous. But so is their story. So with that, over to you. Namrata, do you want to start a bit about yourself? And, have you always been a cheesemaker? Anuradha's disappeared, but she'll come back.
Yeah, no, so
they're both joining from Chennai, by the way. Yes, go
ahead. It's funny how a lot of people say, oh, you're living your dream. Like, yeah, I never dreamt of becoming a cheesemaker. That was never a career option. So I come from this small town in Odisha called Balasore, where growing up, I was told that you are born to be a doctor, right? So the first disappointment was that I never turned out to be a doctor. So I ended up, eventually MBA and all that. I was in market research. And when I quit that and actually started my own consulting, my mother was very disappointed and said, what are you doing? You at least had a job. You're not a doctor, but you at least had a job. And then when I went out to make cheese, she's like, I have really given up on you. I don't know what you do. At least there's one thing right. You got married at the right time to a good guy. That having said, my mom is fabulous. She's very modern. But when it comes to me, I think she's got all her this thing. But jokes apart, I always wanted to do something in food. I think I had realized very early on, I used to say, feeding people makes me happy. So every weekend I would look forward to some excuse of having a bunch of friends at home and cooking for them. I may not eat, but logon ko khilana was like this thing. And
I've had a lot of Namrata's food. So Praveen and I would always, say, whenever she says, hey, shall we meet? And can I host a dinner for you guys? We're like always there.
And did you guys meet in Chennai?
Praveen and I met because of the research thing.
Okay, so this
You know,
Praveen, whom both the ladies are talking about a lot and who must be hiccoughing in some corner, is Anuradha's husband, Praveen Shekhar. So I've met him many times in SMR market research conferences, across the world. So I would be there presenting papers. Like I would love writing papers when I was in research agencies because if it gets selected, that's a nice way of traveling abroad on the offices thing. Praveen was running his own companies and he keeps doing many different things. And the shirt which I'm wearing is very dull compared to the sort of shirts which Praveen. In the research conferences, all of us would be in these blazers and ties and white shirts and all that, and they would be Praveen and but you should hear him when he sort of presents or gives talks. I mean, and especially in market research, where not people are not always the most entertaining. Huh. So, Namrata, you and my mom should meet. Are you Odia or are you Tamilian?
I'm Odia. My
Huh.
husband is a Tamilian. I'm Odia.
So it's also an Eastern Indian thing. So, when I sort of decided to leave market research and write about eating cheese, not making cheese, like she was like very, very worried. And in fact, my wife tried to tell her, can I start to tell her that, no, it's okay. Like people do that these days. And she was like, no, but how could you leave, such a settled job and everything? But I think now she's sort of come around to it. She blogs herself and so people do come around to it. And what about you, Anuradha?
So yeah, far away from cheese and a little bit closer to food because we've known Namrita for the past how long? 15 years now.
Yeah.
So I run. My background is totally into the social sector. So I completed my master's in social work, and I was working as a social worker with an organization called the Banyan in Chennai, and that's where I met Praveen as well. And Praveen and I went on to start Kriya, which is a market research firm.
Yes, Kriya.
And we have a unit, a CSR initiative of Kriya called Can Do, where we train and employ people with disabilities. So I have a call center where we have people with visual impairment and people with hearing impairment getting trained in telecalling and desk research kind of work. And as far as developing the skills for people with disabilities go, we were looking at a couple of other initiatives where we will be able to employ more people. And also, with the first step for that would be, the training process. So we were looking at something in the food sector where we can train girls with hearing impairment. Most of them, do not go on to complete their graduation. They drop out of, once they complete their schooling. And so that's how the entire conversation about, training them. These girls in the food sector, mainly because we thought that was one area where, there is always a lot of scope for people to get employed and to get them trained. Yes. So that's exactly how this started for us. And so Namrita, of course, Praveen and Namrita knew each other for the longest. And so when we were, I'm really sorry.
Well, that's fine. That's fine.
I'm sorry.
No,
Namrita, Mumtaz is trying to call me from there. I don't know why.
Do you need to take the call? If it's a work thing, I can pause the recording. I'll pause it. No worries. So we are back, and yes. Yep. So Anuradha, is it only women with disabilities that you train, or for in this particular project?
For Kase, yes, that's how we started. We started with 2 girls with hearing impairment. And why cheese? That's Namrata, take it from there.
Yes, Namrata. Why cheese? And why Kase? Because
so this nice cup of coffee.
Sorry, what do you say?
We'll come to Kase. That comes a little. I said we'll come to Kase.
Because it's KASE. So with the stupid fellow that I am, till I asked them, I was thinking Kase Cheese. And in Bombay, that's could have been a name also. Kase Cheese, but it's Kase Cheese. Okay, so why cheese, Namrata? And why not? I mean, cheese is the most wonderful thing in the
You know,
world.
and why not? Yeah.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
like, so imagine this, like Anu and I, and you will get the sense over the interview as well, Kalyan, about how Anu and I, so Anu is like the more grounded, the more realistic one, and I am always like little above the ground. And so I had come back from
Floating
a
in the
farm
air,
stay in
floating in the
Kunur.
clouds.
It was, yeah, little, yeah. Ek pav udhar, and like Miles said, ka plan. That's always my thing. So I had come back from a farm stay in Kunur, this place run by Mansoor Khan and his wife Tina.
Yeah.
While staying there, they had cheese making at the farm. So I was like, hey, you know what? I learned how to make cheese. Go back home. Next party, I'm making my own cheese. And I learned how to make a mozzarella and a feta. That's it. And I'm back from the holiday.
In fact, I want to just interject here. Most of the cheeses which I've come across in India largely tend to be the softer ones, like versions of mozzarella, brie, or feta. I've had some people doing the hard cheeses, which come sealed and all that in stores, but rarely have they been in like top notch, like say the ones which I've had from yours, which are both hard cheeses. And I
Thank
wonder if
you.
there's any reason for that. Is softer cheese easier to make?
No, there is. It's not really easier. I think it's, we just assume that the Indian palate is primarily seeking, and which is true. Cheese is not something that we don't really have cheese as stable cheese, right?
Yes.
A lot of people are looking for cheese to cook with. And if you take the top 3 cheese that people are most familiar with, then it would be mozzarella, feta, cream cheese in that order. That's what they consume a lot. And probably the hard cheese, it's this sort of cheese called cheddar, so-called cheddar, which could be like a pulverized
what we've all
cheese,
grown
or
up on. We've grown up on, like the Britannia, the Amuls, and
the Britannia, the Amul,
and for the
completely
Parsis in Mumbai, it would also be that Kraft tin.
The Kraft tin, yeah,
from
yeah,
abroad.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think I'll come to my cheese. I mean, that question I think is very, very pertinent, and we'll come to that. I'll explain to you why we do what we do and how. But in terms of the cheese story, so Anu called me for a cup of coffee and said, you know what, I want these girls to be trained in baking. And I said, yeah, baking, nahi, bahut sare bakers in Chennai mein, let's make cheese. And I still remember her face, like, but what will we do with cheese? I mean, why cheese? How are we going to sell it? How is it going to help the girls? So see, Chennai needs the artisan cheese brand. Let's try making cheese. I have learned 2 kinds of cheese. and let's try doing that. So it was just, and this was April 2016. I had come back from the holiday in November 2015. So we started. So Anu was like, okay, let's try to source some milk, and which is like the local Gwala ka milk, and let's make some cheese. So we made some cheese.
And Chennai traditionally is not a good milk market also. Because if I remember from my research days, Horlicks, Complan would do well in Calcutta and Chennai because there used to be a milk deficit. So whenever people would do market research for Complan and all that, Chennai and Calcutta was a must because poor quality milk deficit. Has that changed?
Yeah. Which is completely changed now. I mean, thanks to things
good.
like the Jallikattu and all, I think, which is a lot of awareness of desi cows and beautiful milk. I think there is a surplus now, and there is all that. So that's exactly how we started Kalyan. So it was Praveen. I mean, Praveen will keep coming up in this conversation because he played a very important role. He's like, okay, you ladies want to do this? I have got my cafeteria space. Post lunch, you can do your experiment. And now we took over that whole space. Right? So we took over. So we made 5 kilo cheese in the first week, and I learned some recipes, and we made a halloumi, cream cheese, cottage cheese, Quark, which is a very Bavarian German kind of soft cheese. We called about 15-20 people to come and eat all the cheese, of which we had a whole table with different things, salads and desserts and everything. And the general verdict over the table was that it's fabulous. You guys must keep making cheese. And I think I was traveling for 6 weeks after that. So I told Anu, okay, let me come back from the US. We'll decide about what to do with the company and how to take it forward. I mean, not even a company, how to take forward this venture. I think it was only in early September 2016 that we got back to making some cheese. And that's when we get a call from Karen Anand's farmers market.
Yeah.
They were having the first farmers market in Chennai. And I was super excited. I was like, it's Karen Anand. We have to do this
She's a lovely person.
Farmers market.
I've met her a few times, and in the Times meet also in Pune.
Yeah.
She was one of the speakers, and so I've met her some other times as well. But the Times Kitchen Tales meet where she was a speaker, so I spent a fair bit of time with her, and I saw that how nurturing she was to all the people around, and sort of encouraging them, and people who are not that well known, they're part of the audience, and of course she is quite the legend, but so encouraging.
So she used to have a column in Graffiti, the Telegraph newspapers magazine.
Yes.
So from my school days, I have something.
Go.
So we decided to do it, and then we realized we didn't have a brand name, we didn't have a website, we didn't have.
So you just went with a table and cheese?
No, not really.
No, not really. So
not
overnight,
really. Okay. I should definitely do some more research and try to discover from my interviewers. But that's a school of research. That's one school of interviewing that let.
So I saw Namrata jumping and saying, "Hey, we need to be part of this, and this is the first time Chennai is going to have a farmers market like this."
Sorry, who jumped in? You said someone jumped in.
Namrita. I mean, looking at her saying that, we need to be there. And the kind of, because Chennai had never probably hosted a farmers market now before that.
No, never.
So this was the first time. That's how they also went about, telling the vendors that this is the first one-of-a-kind event and it's going to be outdoor. And this was happening at the Phoenix Mall. It had a nice outdoor space. And so we jumped in, but, again, we didn't have a brand to start with, and we didn't have our logo. So that's how I think Kase also came about.
How was that? Tell us about it. How did Kase come about?
So Praveen has spent a couple of years in Germany, and Kase means cheese in German or Dutch. And
also, which is different from Kaiser, which is like the emperor, right? The Führer.
Yeah. No, that's Kaiser. Yeah. This is Kaiser. Yeah.
Kaiser.
Just Kaiser. So we're sitting and we're looking at different things, and Praveen was like, "It should be called Kaiser." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, that sounds great. Let's go with Kaiser." And also we had made quark, which is like a very Bavarian origin cheese, which you don't find elsewhere. And our quark, I don't know, for some reason, somebody got to know, and we had some initial buyers who were buying a lot of quark. Remember, I think for health reasons and all that. So what do you know? Overnight, we had a logo and a website and
who designed the logo? Who designed the logo?
Brilliant cartoonist, and now he does a lot of. His name is Arun Kumar. He has a handle called Mojo Canvas, and he does some brilliant.
Mojo
so all
Canvas.
our graphics, yes. So Arun does all our designing and logo and brochures and everything.
One thing which struck me was that Kase and German. I'm surprised or intrigued you went ahead with it, because Germany is not the first association one has with cheese. It's normally Switzerland, then France and Italy. Turkey, maybe Greece, Germany. You normally think of meat and potatoes, and I know Praveen doesn't eat one of them at least. But no, and I'll tell you why I'm asking you these questions, and it's a bit of a plug for this event which we are doing, which is called the Home Chefies, which is entirely on an award for the home chefs and the brands they've created, which is across different categories, including people who are making condiments or pickles, spreads, cheeses, but from home, so not this thing. But it's to make people recognize the fact that it's important to build a brand.
Totally.
And both of you, like, you come from branding backgrounds, research backgrounds. In your case, your husband's also into that. So tell me a bit about, like, why were you so keen on having a brand and brand name before going to the market? How important did you feel it is in the scheme of things? If you get my question.
Yeah. So I mean, for me especially, I think I think collectively we decided that we need to be called something. before we get to the market, right? So it is the first place that we are actually putting ourselves out there, where we're looking at interacting with a lot of people. What is it that you would remember about us, right? And a naughty cow, I mean, if you look at a logo, a cow has this naughty wink with one, there's a wink and there's a little bit of tongue, this thing. Very cheeky. We really like, I mean, we wanted to be out there, and so the connection between, and a name was quite important. I mean, Kesa, I think eat more cheese. I don't know how it came there, but I think from the beginning, Kalyan, when people talked about cheese, there is always this first thing that they look at cheese and think, oh my God, it's fat. There's that whole...
Yes.
And we always wanted to put it out there, saying that there is this... So we have from the beginning spoken about, you need to make a distinction of what you're eating. We are all about healthy eating and everything. Also, I think what's very, very important is we do only ethical sourcing of milk, meaning the calves are not separated. We only work with smaller dairies and a whole bunch of those things.
And that to all local. That to all local, like around
local,
Chennai.
yeah.
So it's not coming from, New Jersey or even Haryana for that matter. It's good Tamilian cows. If it's okay to say 60, that.
Yeah, I mean, max, I think we have gone is like an 80 kilometers radius. It's all native cows. They follow natural herding. And these are things that we have learned along the way. Anu and I did not have any idea of, that there is something called natural herding. What is it about, artificially inseminating? What is it about ethical sourcing and all of that? These are things that we have learned, and we have consciously decided that this is what we are going to do. This is what is important for Kesa. So I think one of the things that we wanted to be cheeky and put it out there is saying that, hey, eat more cheese. Yeah, so which is why we say eat more cheese. Now, Kesa...
Also, I think in Spanish, Kesa is cheese, right? Kesa.
It is. Queso.
No, Kesa is which language? Queso?
Dutch.
That's Mexican. What are you saying?
Mexican Spanish. Yeah, that's what
Mexican Spanish is queso.
Queso. Yeah.
Queso fresco.
Can I just interject once here, because I've got an example which sort of ties in with yours. Interestingly, from Chennai and auto. So one of my earliest clients, late 90s, was Ford Automotive Company. And more or less when I started working with them very early in my career, they had set up this huge plant at Malai Nagar. And we used to go there to Malai. Yeah, we used to just say Malai. But yeah, Malai Nagar. And we used to go there to make presentations to them and all that. We were there at the inauguration when late Chief Minister Karen Anand had inaugurated it. But what the Americans did was that all their entire focus was to get staff locally, like unless it was some very specific thing, like say a certain technique or engineering or whatever, where they needed someone from abroad. And anything which was sort of semi-skilled had to be like in the radius. So in that particular district, not even Chennai, and they taught people, and they gave them uniforms, they gave them dignity, and there was this common canteen. So not an officer's canteen, which some Indian companies would have, or some Japanese companies have a separate thing for the Japanese auto companies. But here it was common, and everyone would have to have the same food, which was vegetarian, South Indian, made locally, and the CEO would also sit in over there. So this thing of growing with the local community, which you are doing as well in your own way, is a very lovely thought and concept. And I think that sort of comes in. And probably this would be a bit of Anuradha's area of expertise, because given that you're in social welfare, masters of social welfare, I'm sure you will know many such cases, right, of good companies.
Totally. See, also for us, Kamal, there was we were I don't know, somehow that's what also got Namrata and me to do things together, because we were never in a rush for being there, being out there, doing the it was never like maximum production, maximum sales. That was never our approach. So we've also kind of been very, very organic in how we have moved with Kesa. So for us, being there, being ethical, and trying, I mean, we don't use any preservatives at all. And the salt that we use is the only preservative. That again, we procure it only from an organic, a market, from the organic market. And so those were, small little things that we always wanted. We wanted it to be, something that we will be very, very proud of, and all of us will have to be, so that was always how we looked at it, even when, right from the beginning, right, Nam? I mean, it took us, we did not even want to go anywhere outside, as in, we wanted it to be a very, very locally created brand, which will also, cater to the local market. So the first year, the first event of ours was the farmers market. And again, as Namrata was saying, we were very particular that we wanted to go to the market with a proper name, with our logo.
Like not half-baked. Like even then you wanted to be ready. I think this is a very female trait, by this way. I must say, even in my years of corporate working, and my wife's, of course, in advertising, I think women are more meticulous about what they do. I think men sometimes have this, ho jayega sort of attitude. And it happens. It's not that it doesn't happen. But I think that women are very sincere when it comes to work.
Yes.
And I'm saying this from years of experience, yeah.
It's not like you can figure all of them and then get there. I always remember my Papa.
Then it's like a paralysis. No, analysis paralysis.
I think Papa's thing was always that you cannot say that I will learn swimming and then get into the water because I'm really scared of it. You have to get it. No.
But I want to tell you, there's something that struck me before I got into this interview, that, I didn't know your backstory. So I just had 2 of the 4 or 5 cheeses which were in my fridge before we had our chat. And I knew that it was supremely good quality cheese. And I've had a fair bit of cheese across the world. In fact, whenever people come from abroad and they say, what can we get you? Like, how people used to say shampoos and chocolate when you're growing up. For me, it's always cheese. So there'll be people who got cheese in ice boxes and this, that. So yours are, like, both the cheese are very good quality cheese. So what I'm saying is that I feel that all of this, thought which you come from in terms of, ethical sourcing, sort of training people who are at a disadvantage, making sure that your growth is organic rather than, rushing through and putting the best quality out. I think all of that leads to the final product. So the consumer will not always know the entire story because, and that shows, I think. I want to ask you a question now from a business point of view. Chennai. Chennai was always, like, when I was in market research, considered to be like a traditional market. So unless it was for Complan or something, hardly ever used as a market research center, especially for qualitative, where you do limited ones. It's like, so kuch hoga nahi. They will go in a certain way of doing conservative, value for money. So, and suddenly you're bringing in cheese, and that too, like a sort of a gourmet cheese, and also with not really much skill set, right? Because you just, Namrata, you attended or you went to the farm of Mansoor Khan, learned 1 or 2 cheeses. So what gave you guys the courage or the gumption? And don't say Praveen again, because Praveen is a live wire, but Praveen has often told me to do various things, but I hadn't. So tell me, what gave you the courage to do this?
So there are two parts to your question. One is, of course, how Chennai as a market was, and then cheese, and then the cheese, and what gave us the. So I think very early on, 3-4 months, I started saying that, oh my God, whatever we seem to be doing seems to be working. But I really don't know
saying, how. Oh my God, it's working.
It's working.
That's again a very East Indian thing. Oh no, now I'll have to work more.
No, it's like it's working, but I really don't know what I'm doing right. It's again somebody that I really, who's like a mentor to me. He said, success always leaves behind clues. And I was like, so what are my clues? I don't even know what I'm doing, because there's a lot of chemistry in this which I don't understand. So cheese making, Karen, just to give you an idea, there is only so much you see and do, which is, I think, only about 20%. But 80% of it is the microbial, the microclimate that you create, especially the kind of cheese that we make. or as they call, the French call it the affinage, that part of it, the taking care of it, which is not relevant for fresh cheese, but more so for aged cheese. And I
And
decided
aged cheese is what you focus on? Is aged?
Yes.
That is the
yes,
hard cheese, right? The aged
that is the
is
hard
the hard
cheese.
cheese.
And I'll tell you why. Because I think we work with, India has beautiful dairy, and I think we work with absolutely beautiful dairy. And each pasture has got a story to tell. And you can't really translate that story from a mozzarella, because the mozzarella is just going to be milky and creamy. But the moment you let that cheese mature for about 4 months, 5 months, that is when the nuances start speaking to you. That is when all these characters of the cheese are reflected. You get the beautiful terroir, and cheese is no different from wine. It's a lot to do with the terroir. It's what that is something that
As
I
in the
figured
soil,
that
the terroir is the soil.
Yeah, the soil,
Simply
the
put,
climate, the soil, the climate, what grows there,
Water.
what is it the animal feeding, in what conditions are they living, how hygienic the farm conditions are. Everything will start reflecting on the cheese 3 to 4 months of maturing it. And these are things that we don't necessarily talk about or even know about. But I think once I was exposed to it, it was extremely exciting. And it happened because I went around traveling a bit. I learned from some really amazing people. And this whole journey got me terribly excited. So I said, okay, fresh cheese will bring in our money.
Tell us a bit about that, like some of the courses, training which you did. You went to Somerset, I know, and that was, in my head, that's where Ian Botham, Viv Richards, I think even Gavaskar for a short while played. But I'm sure that there's more to Somerset than cricket.
There is. So the best cheddars in the country, in the world, come from Somerset.
And
so
see, again, that's how the myth. Like England, people don't associate with good cheese. But, the Monterey and some of the cheddars and the Stiltons.
The Stilton, yeah. I mean, there are so many. And now, so there's an academy called the Academy of Cheese.
I feel a bit proud because I was born there, not in Kent. So, Gao ka yaad aa raha hai. My wife will laugh when she hears me say this, since I've been here for most of my life. But anyway, yeah.
So 4 of the world's greatest cheddars that come out of UK are all from the Somerset region. So the Montgomerys, the Quicks, and the Westcombe. So I actually went to Westcombe. It was a chance meeting with the owner. She had come to India. She came for a tasting, and I gave her a cheese board with some 20 different things. And then while having this cheese, she's like, it's really nice. And, we make cheddar. We had a 100-year-old cheese making company. And I still remember my reaction. I almost pulled the cheese board back saying, I needed to know this before. And she's like, no, it's great. Look at you. In 3 years, you're making all this. We only make cheddar. How is it possible that you only make one, and they make a single batch of 3,000 liters a day, but it's handcrafted cheddar, and it's amazing. And she just said, you can come visit us. And I took up that job. I said, oh, you know what? It's my birthday next month. Can I just come and spend a week there? Will I get to work with the cheesemaker? She said, yeah, and the cheesemaker is legendary. And so, a lot of these things have actually, I don't know, they have just come out of their own, and some,
And it's all your own initiative, because it's you put in your own money to travel over there. And you're probably, I don't know, were you thinking at that time that, okay, if I travel and spend so much, is that what I'm going to get back in the business?
Not really. No.
It doesn't work that way, does it?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. And I keep laughing at this as well, that I'm somebody who advised a lot of people saying, oh, what is your idea? How much money will it make? Is it a valid idea?
But I did not apply days.
In my consulting days, and very rigid in my structure and all that. But none of that applied to Kesa. Yeah, so Kesa is like a lot of hard business that happened in Kesa. So this was one. And I think
in fact, there's this Buddhist saying which I really love, which says that it is the heart that is most important.
Totally.
Yes, are you saying that there's other aspect of it?
So that was one. I mean, that was one great learning. And also, obviously I was looking through a lot of books and trying to see. So it was almost like 11 out of 12 books that I read were about cheese making recipes, told the same things. And then the 12th book was by this guy called David Usher, who talked about things which are completely different. He talked about natural cheese making. He talked about doing things in a very organic way. And I was completely fascinated. I reached out to him and said, listen, I have to learn from you. And he
As in
said,
you emailed him.
I did. I found an email ID. I found his website. I said, oh, you conduct classes. Can I come and learn? He was in this really remote place in British Columbia. And, getting there was going to be a bit of a trouble.
That's where Canada? British Columbia?
Yeah, British Columbia, island called Kelowna. He was there. It was quite remote. So my nearest thing was like going to Seattle, but I had to drive down. I don't drive. So there were too many things in that equation. After a year, he wrote to me saying, I'm taking a class in Vermont. And if you want to come there, come and get. So I flew to Vermont in the winter, in minus 22 degrees, not alone, but took my mother with me, put her in an Airbnb for the first time. With the host family, but Kalyan, it was the most fabulous few weeks, and learning from David was kind of life-changing.
Wow.
So that was, I think we make amazing cheese, but it's because of some of the philosophies of cheese making that has come from him.
And also because of this keenness of yours to learn, like the fact that that's your first thing. You're not thinking that, okay, where will this lead to? Your thing is just, I want to learn. There's one more thing which you said towards the beginning when you were talking right now. That is that that India has lovely dairies. Now, who would associate that with India? Like we always are a bit apologetic, whether it's our wines or cheeses, saying that, it's not the same standard as, our cattle is not really Swiss, New Jersey, Italian, Spanish, this thing. So we'll do, but whatever. So you're saying, and that too, you come from Tamil Nadu and Chennai, that's where you're based now, which is a state traditionally not associated with milk production. In fact, there are not that many South Indian deserts also, which are really milk based. And now you're saying that we've got fabulous milk in India. So now people have no excuse to not make good cheese.
Kamal, to add to the Chennai being a very conservative place for anything that is new.
You're a Chennai girl. You're a Chennai girl, Anuradha.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because Namrata's coming from Orissa, but you're the Chennai girl.
Outsider.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. She's.
Does she speak
How would
Tamil?
you call yourself that? No.
Does she speak Tamil, Namrata?
Yeah, she does. She does.
Vanakkam.
Possible.
Seri.
Seri, yeah, of course. And the nod, of course, will, probably take you.
Okay, I'm running out of Tamil, like Thai, Southern, and that's it.
The first 1 year of, Kase journey, we took part in close to about 15 to 16 of these kind of events. That was for us more than a market research study, because there we were, at these events talking to at least 200 to 300 people that would, come. Again, for us there, the motive was more to create an awareness. Again, all of us had, only had an Amul cheese or, the distinction between what is a processed cheese and how our cheese is totally different. And again, as Namrita was saying earlier on, when people say cheese, oh no, it's fattening. And so we had to kind of, break a lot of myths there. So
it's not fattening, is it?
Pardon?
So cheese is not fattening. Is it not fattening?
Let Anu finish. I'll go back to that question.
And what about the arteries? What about the arteries?
They won't clog your arteries.
Yeah, we have a...
So
pretty much, so that was what the first year we were doing. And again, people are, at least, from what we kind of, got to find out, they were not looking at something that was cheap. Definitely value for money, because, you're paying somewhat more than what the other products are priced at. That's only because, we went about telling them that our source of milk, how we went about, getting the milk from that. That was one of the main factors that kind of, also gets people to understand that, hey, yes, if you go to the market and if you go to any store, if you have to procure milk, and if you're looking at something that was, what we were talking about, and then if at that point they get convinced, And they kind of, do not really mind it being a little bit more pricier than the other brands. And especially, things like processed cheese, where probably 20 to 25% is what milk is there. All the other things are things that are added to it.
Wow.
The additives, the emulsifiers, and other things that are there. So that is the distinction that we told people that this is what it is all about. And then so yeah, the market per se could be a conservative market, but if they know that this is what is the money is all about, then they are able to make that informed choice. So that was one thing that I wanted to.
No, I'm glad you shared that, Namrata, before you say this thing, because this is a question which people often have, like home chefs, or I take classes for Bake Academy where they're bakers, and they often feel that they say that, we want to put in good products, but it's expensive. We are more expensive than store brands and across categories across the country. So what do we do? Now, you made a very important distinction, Anuradha, which we, even in research and branding we used to do, that value for money and cheap is not the same thing. So there could be someone who's buying a Mercedes or a BMW, but he's still looking for value for money. So for example, when you're staying in a luxury hotel, I mean, you're paying a lot of money and you're okay paying that, but then you're seeing that, are you getting a money's worth? So, and obviously, you know that your sales will not be as much of a processed cheese, nor will the usage. Like in the same family, maybe processed cheese will be used more often than Kase cheese.
Kase, yeah.
Kase cheese, yes. But that's the thing. So that's a very good and important point you made. Okay, one more thing, Anuradha, I wanted to ask you is that you told me that the genesis of Kase cheese was also a bit of this bug. You had to sort of do something for employment and sustainable employment for women who are physically disadvantaged. So how has that worked for you? One is that, have you been able to achieve that? Two is, has that compromised your ability to make the best quality cheese? If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I totally agree. The team size per se, Kamal, we are at any point of time. And since we are an artisan brand, we're not looking at a whole lot of people working there at any point of time. But we've been able to, train these girls. And so the most, also the interesting part is the learning that they get here. It could be replicated, or they can be able, they can you make use of all the skills that they've learned here in any other sector as well, because it is not just working in the kitchen. So there is what is called a stock taking, and you need to know how to take the orders. So inventory management, so a whole lot of things are there. And it is a end of the day, it's at any point of time there are just 10 people that are working there. So in terms of numbers, well, yes, we have girls with hearing impairment. Also, we also try to hire people from the a couple of not for profits. So that in the accounts process and other areas as well. So yes, and also looking at Kase, a lot of other smaller ventures have also come forward and have asked us, okay, fine, they're able to work for you guys. So if you do know of someone else who will be able to work with our organization or our initiative, we would also like to hire them. So that way, yes, I would say we've been able to kind of take care of.
And I'll say that's fabulous. And now from the technical side, Namrata, since I'm guessing that you're the one in charge of production. And this is something which people will often wonder. So do you think that that's sort of been hindered you a bit? That if you were, or no?
Because not really.
So it's not that you've done a compromise. You've not done a. You're very happy with your workforce and how they work.
Yeah, Kalyan. Honestly, it's never been a problem. I mean, I think it was the perception of it, but when you let go, you find that the girls are exceptionally smart, and it's
Because you've
they
never
follow.
worked with such people earlier
Yeah,
in a corporate life.
I've not. I mean, like, yeah, and you know, unlike Anu is very proficient with the sign language, and I was thinking, oh my god, my Tamil is not good, and it's going to be primarily English, and I cannot talk. How do I do this? But it's just you do it and they follow it, and they're quite quick, and yeah. So it's so for me, it's like a demo. You do it, and then they see it, and they're doing it the next day. So
That's so wonderful. So your ethical sourcing goes not only to the products, but even into the human resources going into this. That's beautiful. Now I've got about 10-15 minutes. I'm just keeping that in mind because I don't want to split it because Instagram is 1 hour. So I'm just keeping, because I think we can talk for 3 hours. Okay, now I want to, Namrata, come to what brought us, connected us this time, which was your tie-up with Fratelli wines, because you know and they're one of the well-regarded wines coming out of India from my friends who are like wine connoisseurs and so on. So the way it happened was that there was this box which came to my house. Uh, I'm not exactly sure how it just landed up, and then it says Fratelli wines, and then I thought, okay, there's a wine bottle which is lovely, but then I opened it, cheese. Yo, that's fabulous. And then I got in touch with Fratelli after I had the cheddar, and it was really super. So I said, "Are you guys making it?" So they said, "No, our partner," and they said partner, not supplier, which I really appreciate. So they said our partner, Kase Cheese, makes it. So I said, "Who's it?" And they gave me your contact. So tell me a bit about this. Is it because wine and cheese go together? I remember once, in the early days of our market research days, we got port wine over from Goa, and we were all bachelors there, and we'd met in the house of one of the girls. So there were 3-4 of us, the guys and girls. And then one of the girls said that both of them were from Chennai, by the way. So she said that wine has to be with cheese. So, we bought our Britannia cheese or whatever, port wine, and we felt like, we were ekdam, maybe Sangvi or something, but he will collapse if he hears that. A lovely gentleman about port wine from Goa and cheese. But tell me, how did this partnership happen?
So this was 2018. Fratelli was doing a tasting of their reds and whites and all that in the Imperial in Mumbai. We had met one of the sommeliers, and he contacted us and said, bring over some cheese and come. I said, it doesn't make sense because we're not in Mumbai. We're not even selling in Mumbai. He said, see, this is a great opportunity. You're definitely looking at being in Mumbai for some time. And he had tasted our cheese. And he said, I can't think of anyone else in India, so you should get your cheese and come. And it was fabulous. Anu and I went to Bombay. I think we carried about 40 kilos of cheese in our suitcase one evening.
That looks like my shopping when I come back from abroad.
Trust me, I think we just had like one pair of change for the night and 40 kilos, 20 kilos of cheese. And it was...
Come. My kitten has heard about cheese. Okay, I must tell you. So when he was born and when he came to our house, he used to smell a lot of cheese. Like I don't know if kittens smell of cheese, but that's probably one of the reasons why he also adopted him. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
No. So I think after the event, which was amazing, there were 200 odd people who polished off all the 40 kilos of cheese. I reached out to them and said, hey, listen, wine and cheese, it's like a natural pairing. And I really love your wines. They have some excellent reds, and I saw the vineyard.
Yeah, they're very well praised also, well regarded.
Stories and everything. And I said, can we do something together? And this gentleman connected me with the management, with a couple who's the managing director. Couple sadly is no more with us. And, they said, okay, sounds
There's
really
one shy
nice.
kitten.
There
he is.
Oh, look at...
So Anu's a cat.
Totally.
And Namrata will convert you. Yes.
I'm happy with dogs.
Actually, right outside the office, and I've been trying to smuggle him inside as well. So let's see.
Yeah, Namrata's in their office. So tell me where they make the cheese.
Sorry, this charger will not work, Mumtaz, some other. Reached out to them and said, let me make some cheese that goes along with your wines, which are made for you. And the managing director of the company will say, okay, sounds very interesting. What do you need from us? I said, I need some leaves from your vineyard, and I'll see you in 6 months' time. which basically meant I wanted to make something mature. And so it was July 2019 that I took the cheese, went to Delhi, and absolutely loved it. So by then I had visited the vineyard as well. So the idea was that I was inspired by the terroir, by the wines that they were making it,
Is this
the
Nashik?
story of the vineyard. And this is in Akluj. This is in Akluj, Pune, 2 hours from
Pune, Maharashtra.
Okay. Yeah, but it's not the Nashik side; it's the other side, and this side is known. They have a lot of table grapes, but it's beautiful. They have about 350 acres under cultivation. So the whole story. I mean, they have Sangiovese, which is a red grape from Italy. They make a Sangiovese Bianco, which is a white wine, which is quite few winemakers in the world. So there were different things, which was very exciting. And I said, I want to make this 3 cheese that actually reflect some of the terroir story, and it pairs with the wine. So there were just 3 cheese that were created, which actually go very well with some of their wine. So it's like cheese crafted for the wine. That's how this whole thing came about.
So how does it happen? People go to their site and order it, and then they send it off.
People can order it from their site. People can order it from our side as well.
So are you now shipping across India? Are you now shipping across India?
Yeah.
And when did that start?
So
when did that start? Shipping across India?
27th of Jan.
This year,
2021.
So no, let me get that right. And which brings me to the last aspect also of the interview, which is the lockdown. So I was going to ask you that, or the pandemic, that how did pandemic change things for you and stuff like that? And you were actually telling me that in the pandemic, you've done something which you've never done before, which is shipping your cheeses across the country. Thank God, you guys are, I don't know whether one should say precautious or audacious, or but I love your spunk. So tell me, like, how's the pandemic been for you, and any sort of learnings you would like to share with people who are feeling so deadlocked at these times?
I think it's I don't know what I think. Anu and I are people. I think it's good to say that we are people who are really generally quite positive. We feel like that. I think we bring in stuff. We don't get bogged down. It's not about self glorification or anything.
No,
but
it's important. Yeah.
It's just important to sail through these times, because